Especially like NIH, they want you to have like a publication with your collaborators.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like an established collaboration. And so that's like really the purpose of this project. This paper that we're writing is just to say, hey, we have an established research collaboration.
Nice. Okay, cool. So have you heard of open science before?
No.
Okay, perfect. I'll go ahead and read you a little definition. So open science can be defined as the principle and practice of making research products and processes available to all while respecting diverse cultures, maintaining security and privacy, and fostering collaborations, reproducibility, and equity. And some examples of open science practices include pre-registration, which is just like registering hypotheses, and potentially even measures and data analysis plans online, to minimize hypothesizing after the results are known, and then sharing data and materials more openly. So what are your perceptions of open science?
I mean, it sounds fine. I guess the biggest question that I have is like the whole equity issue and diversity and everything with regard to like the science that we do. Mostly because like it impacts like the whole world, like microplastics do.
Yeah.
And so I don't really know how I would address most of those things that you talked about there.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
I mean, I would love to.
Yeah.
So it's not that I don't want to, but it's I have no idea how to do it. And so somebody told me, hey, this is what it looks like. I'm like, okay, I can make that work. But
Okay, perfect. So I'm guessing you haven't engaged in any of those practices before.
What were the practices again?
It was pre-registering, open data, and then open materials.
No, I have not. For sure, I have no idea what any of those are. So yeah, I wouldn't know even how to pre-register a hypothesis.
Yeah, and then open data is just like sharing any data that has been like garnered through the study, and then open materials is more like talking about like maybe the scales and things of that nature that were used. So that's kind of what that looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are some publications like what's it called? I forgot what it's called, but there are some like I've reviewed for a journal before.
Oh, okay.
It's like straight up like here's our data, and that's all the journal is.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I think that's interesting that people do that. So, I'm like, well, I mean, we don't know what this data even means. Like, you didn't give us any, that's what my review is. Like, you did not tell us what this data is, like where it came from, what were your research questions. So, without that information, this data is kind of meaningless. But, so if you can just give us a context for it, then that will help us understand better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I've never published in that journal before.
Okay, perfect.
I just reviewed for them.
Okay. So would you say that open science in the field is more widespread then, or not?
Oh, I don't think it's widespread at all.
Okay, not widespread.
In fact, like I'm on an editorial board for one of the Springer Nature publications, and one thing that the journal that I'm on board for that they really want to promote more is people's failed hypotheses and failed experiments.
Oh, interesting.
So I think that, and they said that it's actually a bias for people, well, for reviewers only to let like totally successful papers go through. It's also a bias on behalf of researchers not to even bother publishing that stuff. They think that people think that it might taint their scientific reputation or whatever, but that's like super useful information, because if I have the same research questions as somebody else, and I run these experiments, but they already did it, they didn't publish them, and so like I don't have anything to draw upon, I'm gonna have the same failures that they had. So I thought that was interesting that they call that an ethical question as opposed to like anything else.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was even an ethical thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so Since open science isn't really widespread in your field at this current time, why do you think that is?
Well, I think for that reason, people don't want to publish their failed experiments. Like in my case, I think the reason why I don't do it is sometimes I don't know that the data is that useful or helpful to other people. And honestly, I think that some of it, like where we're doing like the ski friction stuff, that's stuff that people don't do. And so it would take so much effort for somebody to call me and be like, hey, I need to understand what you did and why, all this stuff. And I just think it'd be a headache. Like that would be my whole job. Well, no. If people all of a sudden decided to start doing like that kind of research, then it would be a very time-consuming thing. So I guess for now it's not that time-consuming. But
okay.
I think that's probably the reason why. And I also think the second reason, which is probably the number one reason, is that people, if you publish these things, like as faculty members, we're all the time told by, I don't even know what they're called now, like the Pivot Center, but they're not the Pivot Center anymore, like the Commercialization Office.
Oh, yeah.
They are always telling us don't publish, don't present at conferences until you've like at least filled out a provisional patent application with them. And so I think that there's a lot, like, I don't do that because like a lot of the stuff that I'm working on, like, yes, it could lead to a patent down the road, but I'm just like, I don't want to protect it at a weird state where it's not going to, like maybe the trajectory I'm on right now isn't where a product would end up in the future.
Yeah. So
why bother doing that? Because I've only got like a year of coverage anyway, and maybe this is like 10 years down the road. So I'm just saying, hey, this is something that we're working on right now. So I think that there's a lot of fear about intellectual property.
Okay.
And I know that's not unique to the University of Utah.
Yeah.
That's like across the board. And like sometimes at conferences people are like, oh, okay, I can't share that because it's proprietary and blah, blah, blah. Like that's fine. But like the fact that they're there and they're presenting, like that at least makes the science more accessible.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay. We'll pivot just a bit. If open science practices were to kind of start being adopted in the field, do you have any hopes for open science practices?
Well, it sounds like really Star Trek. So, I don't know. Like, I mean, it sounds like, sure, the ideal. Like, everybody just like, I mean, honestly, I just wish that people would practice it more often.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's nice to have like friendly competition, like even in like the product design space.
Yeah.
So I work with biodegradable pressure-sensitive adhesives for menstrual care products.
Oh, cool.
And so it's like, okay, well, we're the only ones doing that. But I really, really wish that somebody else was in the space with us because we can only learn so much by ourselves.
Yeah.
So if there were other people, we were like, having friendly competition with each other and some collegiality, like that would just be super helpful and it would really accelerate that. So yes, I can see the value of this.
Yeah.
So if somebody saw, all the data that we have, they're like, wait a minute, I could do that. And actually, they're going about it the wrong way. That might be really helpful.
Yeah, awesome. So, do you believe that open science will make science more accessible to those in your field of study? Why or why not?
Well, that's an interesting question because I think that we all get into our pigeonholes. We all just kind of, I don't surface very often. So if it's not relevant to what we actually are doing, then I don't know that it would do much good. Yeah. But like where you have like new researchers or new investigators that are coming in and they haven't quite hit their pigeonholes yet, then I think they would be the ones who would benefit the most. They'd be like, hey, I've got this really cool idea. What is out there that has been done, good or bad? What's worked, what hasn't? And then they could really start, they could create a better definition of their career path.
Okay.
Well, I think. I don't know. I'm just thinking about like the two people whose offices are next to mine. Our research is so different from each other. Like no crossover whatsoever.
Interesting.
And so like me sharing my data, like I don't care.
Okay.
Like, I'm not asking these questions, I don't care about these problems. I mean, it's not that they don't care about these problems, but they're problems that they don't feel like they